Good morning and greetings from a sunny Northumberland on a lovely September morning. It's Wednesday, the 2nd of September, and in the Anglican calendar we commemorate the martyrs of Papua New Guinea. Now, you can't get much further away from the UK than Papua New Guinea. If you're not quite sure where it is, I'd forgive you. I just checked. I knew it was in the Pacific. It's to the north of Australia and to the east end of all those islands that run round in a crescent that we call the Indonesian islands and Java and all those places. But Papua New Guinea is this large island divided into two countries to the north of Australia, looking rather like a barrier between Australia and the rest of the Pacific Ocean at that point. And that's important. We'll come back to that in a minute. But we remember the martyrs of that area. The first martyrs were martyred around 1901, and they were missionaries, Anglican missionaries, who went to open up and to Christianize those islands. And we don't know much about them except that they were courageous, they were Christian, and they were killed. The church grew. The church in New Guinea grew, and there was a wonderful mixture of European, Anglican English evangelists and indigenous Christians beginning to grow up and take responsibility in the church. And all this continued until 1942. And in 1942, the Japanese invaded Papua New Guinea, as I said, like a barrier to Australia, and it was the sort of the invasion of Papua New Guinea that made Australia vulnerable. When the Japanese were coming, the bishop said to the missionaries and the priests and the teachers who were there, he suggested that they stayed if they could and continued to work with their people. But this made them very vulnerable because Christians were seen as being potentially disloyal and in opposition to the Japanese forces. And as I said before, many of them were missionaries. And during the years of World War II, 333 Christians lost their lives at the hands of the Japanese invaders. And there was a mixture of Europeans and Papua New Guinea people. But what this did was to set a foundation for an indigenous church that still thrives and continues in that island. The blood of the martyrs is indeed the seed of the church. I'm always moved, though, when I come to this feast, because it reminds me of something that happened when I was a curate in the 1980s. In the 1980s, when we used to celebrate these martyrs, one of whom was called Vivian Redlich, a lady, a very old lady at that time, probably in her 90s, always used to come to the Eucharist on that day, and she used to cry. And we discovered why. And it was because when she was a young woman in Dewsbury in West Yorkshire, she had known the curate who was called Vivian Redlich. This was before World War II. And of course he left West Yorkshire and went to Papua New Guinea. And he was one of those 333 Christian martyrs who gave their lives during that period. And it brought home to me that even when we celebrate and give thanks for the lives of Christians who died far away and indeed long ago, we are connected to them. We're connected by that human connection through the ages and across the boundaries of our world. That when we give thanks for the life of a faithful Christian, that is a person who is connected to us, because we are all connected through the love of God. These martyrs had courage unto death. Sometimes the courage we are called to show is different. But let us pray that God will give us faith and courage. And may God bless us all today.